Cuba received the second shipment of humanitarian aid from Venezuela to help deal with the damage caused by Hurricane Melissa. In Brazil, indigenous peoples blocked the entrance of the COP30 summit headquarters, demanding that the Brazilian government halt the expansion of development projects in the Amazon. And China warned the United States government over its military support to Taiwan, emphasizing it violates its sovereignty and security interests. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Cuba received the second shipment of humanitarian aid from Venezuela to help deal with the severe damage caused by Hurricane Melissa in the eastern region of the island. According to the director of the Guillermo Moncada port, the unloading of donations, including supplies, food and materials to support the recovery of the electrical system, will begin on Friday afternoon. In this regard, the director of Foreign Trade and Foreign Investment in Santiago de Cuba announced that the Defense Council will be responsible for distributing aid in the eastern provinces. In addition, the authorities also informed that the first ship sent with Venezuelan aid to Cuba has returned to Bolivarian territory after unloading tons of supplies. Venezuela provides skilled labor for the rehabilitation of road and bridge infrastructure affected by Hurricane Melissa. The Venezuelan technical mission arrived in the province of Santiago de Cuba, comprising civil engineers, bridge and road experts, and a group of workers from the electricity sector whose experience is essential for restoring basic services. The brigade of more than 20 professionals was received by Cuban authorities at the Antonio Maceo Grajales International Airport in this city. This gesture of solidarity reaffirms the strategic and fraternal nature of relations between Cuba and Venezuela, based on mutual cooperation and the exchange of knowledge. In this scenario, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel expressed his gratitude for Venezuela for the humanitarian aid provided to support recovery efforts after Hurricane Melissa. Let's listen.
And Aileen, I also want to highlight the meeting I had before joining the round table and the meeting with the Provincial Defense Council that we experienced, which was sharing with a team of constructors from the sister Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, which was sent by our brother President Maduro, led by a deputy minister, and which has worked together with our troops and the Ministry of Construction and Transportation to conduct a survey of the state of the roads. An assessment of the state of the roads and work is already underway on projects to recover with the joint participation of Venezuelans and Cubans. A group of damaged areas here in Santiago de Cuba, and that is where the true expression of the brotherhood and solidarity of two revolutions lies. A country under the threat of invasion does not forget its brothers, and here it is also collaborating. I believe that from here we must be grateful for the continuous and timely solidarity of the brotherly people of Venezuela and also of its leadership, in particular our brother President Nicolás Maduro.
Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro joined the communal youth in a march in defense of peace and the country's sovereignty. The president walked alongside thousands of young people who set out from the emblematic Plaza Sucre in Catia in the west of the capital. The presence of the head of state seeks to reinforce the government's commitment to the new generations and their leading role in the construction of Bolivarian socialism. It is a direct endorsement of the grassroots organization represented by the communities. This march serves as an act of support for the National Popular Consultation scheduled for November 23rd. On this election day, the organized communities themselves will select through direct vote the priority projects to be implemented in their localities.
Así que yo los convoco a ese proceso.
So I call on you to join this popular, constituent process of youth to refound a giant, powerful, unprecedented confederation of all Venezuelan youth, democratic,
Federación de toda la juventud venezolana, democrática, de base, que reúne
grassroots confederation of all Venezuelan youth, is one of the most beautiful tasks we can set ourselves, and that youth have power in universities, high schools,
que nos podemos plantear. Y que la juventud tenga poder en la universidad, en el liceo, en el
the territory, the community, where they work, and that youth have training, leadership, organization, and that youth look to the future for the great battles.
Que la juventud se plantee hacia el futuro las grandes batallas.
And now we go to Chile. As part of the preparations for next Sunday's presidential and legislative elections, the period banning election advertising begins. This period of silence will allow the population to reflect before casting their votes. According to the Electoral Service, all forms of advertising in printed media, on the radio, on television, and on social media platforms are now prohibited, as are electoral demonstrations and the placement of posters or billboards intended to promote candidates. Furthermore, each political party is responsible for removing all propaganda displayed in public and private spaces. And in other news, the Supreme Federal Court of Brazil will examine a complaint against federal deputy Eduardo Bolsonaro, son of former President Jair Bolsonaro, for the crime of judicial coercion. The charges were brought by the Federal Public Prosecutor's Office, which accused Bolsonaro of seeking foreign sanctions on the nation and its authorities in order to prevent the conviction of his father. The formal proceedings will be conducted through a virtual plenary session and will last until November 25th. If the court accepts the charges, Eduardo Bolsonaro, who has been in the United States since February, will be indicted and a criminal case will be opened against him. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South, and let's go to Brazil. Dozens of indigenous people blocked the entrance to the COP30 summit headquarters, demanding that the Brazilian government halt the expansion of development projects in the Amazon and protect the forests. The peaceful protest denounced mining, deforestation, oil exploration, and the construction of a new railway in the Amazonian region. The demonstration was led by the Munduruku people, who live in areas affected by extractivism. The protesters blocked the entrance to the Blue Zone, where the COP30 negotiations are taking place, and demanded a meeting with Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. In this scenario, security was reinforced and delegates were forced to use a side entrance to continue the negotiations at the climate summit. In other information, on Thursday in Mexico, President Claudia Sheinbaum reiterated that the Generation Z march called for this Saturday is linked to and financed by right-wing and foreign groups in an attempt to destabilize the country. The head of state recalled the report by Infodemic coordinator Miguel Elorza, in which he highlighted that the call to action is a digital strategy promoted by 8 million bots, influencers and politicians linked to the opposition. The use of artificial intelligence videos was also detected, including the dissemination of images of the National Palace on fire. In addition, Sheinbaum urged the population and young people to be informed and to know where these types of calls come from, so that they do not allow themselves to be used, and she assured that she respects the right to protest. And also in Mexico, the government has launched an offensive against at least 12 drug cartels operating in the state of Michoacán in the western part of the country. The North American nation has reaffirmed that this fight within its territory is a national matter. According to the authorities in charge, the operation will focus on a dozen cartels, although it could be expanded if other criminal groups are identified. More than 3,000 agents have been deployed for the operation, according to Secretary of Security Omar Garcia Harfuch. It is important to highlight that in that state, in the past month, the Mayor Carlos Manso and the leader of citrus producers, Bernardo Bravo, were murdered. We stay in Mexico. Abuses committed by U.S. Border Patrol personnel on Mexican territory have resulted in several fatalities over the last 20 years. The situation has led some of their relatives to bring their cases before the Inter-American Court of Human Rights after Washington denied them access to justice. Our colleague Antonio Aranda gives us the details.
6 familias de mexicanos que fueron
6 families of Mexicans who were killed by Border Patrol's agents firing from the United States into Mexican territory seek justice.
Una de ellas es la señora Taide. Su nieto José
One of them is Mr. Taide, whose 16-year-old grandson José Antonio was shot 8 times by a border agent who claimed that the teenager threw stones at him from Nogales, Chihuahua, on the Mexican side.
Pasó el 10 de octubre del 2012.
It happened on October 10th, 2012 at 9:30 p.m.
Casa, a 2 cuadras antes de llegar, ahí lo mataron, pero la de mi nieto.
When he was walking home, 2 blocks before he got there, they killed him.
Más criminal, más
My grandson's death is the most criminal,
inhumana.
most inhuman death because of many gunshots.
Sergio, otro adolescente de 15 años, fue asesinado por
Sergio, another 15-year-old teenager, was killed by a Border Patrol agent who claimed that the young man was a drug dealer. Guadalupe, his mother, says that it's false and regrets that the perpetrator was not even brought to trial.
El caso de mi hijo fue en Ciudad Juárez, fue muerto por...
My son's case was in Ciudad Juárez. He was killed by a Border Patrol agent on June 7, 2010.
7 de junio de 2010. Él nunca pisó la cárcel.
He never set foot in jail, he never had a trial, and he continues to work. They do take away people who do wrong in the United States, but we don't get justice just because we are Mexican.
Para las familias de las víctimas, se abre
For the families of the victim, there is new hope of obtaining justice after years of impunity, says the lawyer who is leading the legal defense.
Estamos alegando que no solo es una
We are alleging that this is not only an arbitrary deprivation of the right to life, but also a violation of equality under the law due to discrimination, understanding that the United States will not open the doors to justice. We are taking this case to the Inter-American Commission so that it may ask the United States to compensate this family for the immense pains they have suffered and to commit to a bilateral agreement where the United States and Mexico can bring these cases when they occur and can have a fair resolution. In addition to compensating the families for the damage caused, the aim is to change the operating protocols of the U.S. Border Patrol so that there are no more murders of innocent people in Mexico, Rodriguez states.
Sí estamos pidiendo que se
We are asking for at least minimal recognition that what the guilty parties did is illegal and that the Border Patrol's policy of shooting even when there is no lethal threat is illegal and must be completely eradicated.
Grupos de activistas por la defensa de los derechos humanos en
Human rights activist groups on the border point out that the so-called Border Patrol has been linked to at least 400 cases of unjustified assaults from U.S. soil onto the Mexican side over the last 10 years.
Antonio Aranda, teleSUR, Ciudad de México.
In other news, on Thursday, the United States announced the inclusion of 4 left-wing groups from Germany, Italy and Greece on its list of terrorist organizations. The Donald Trump administration presented the measure as a part of its supposed fight against extremism. According to the State Department, the targeted groups are Antifa Ost in Germany, the informal anarchist Federation International Revolutionary Front that primarily operates in Italy, and also the Greek organizations Armed Proletarian Justice and Revolutionary Class Self-Defense. With these terrorist designations, the United States is using its security mechanisms to criminalize anti-fascist movements that oppose ultra-conservative views and policies promoted by Washington. And we have a second short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, we'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South, and let's talk about Palestine. On Thursday, the Israeli army killed two 15-year-old Palestinian teenagers near the West Bank city of Hebron on the outskirts of the teleSUR settlement. The Palestinian government's General Civil Affairs Authority identified the young men as Bilal Baha Ali Barran and Muhammad Mahmoud Abu Ajash. In a statement, authorities denounced the retention of their bodies and said they died from bullets fired from the occupation near Beit Umar. The Israeli genocidal regime defended the action, stating that its military ambushed them to eliminate two terrorists who were on their way to perpetrate an attack without providing additional details about the identity of the deceased. The resistance movement Hamas confirmed that the attack on children in the West Bank constitutes an atrocious crime perpetrated by a terrorist government. And in this context, the Israeli government approved projects to build more than 26,000 homes in the occupied West Bank as part of its expansionist plans in Palestinian territory. The Applied Research Institute Jerusalem stated that the works are part of 194 projects covering a total of more than 3,000 hectares concentrated in the Jerusalem district. In this regard, the institute emphasized that according to the United Nations, settlements in the Palestinian territories constitutes a violation of international law and have no legal validity. However, Israel continues its policy of displacement and demolition of Palestinian homes, which undermines the possibility of establishing a state and implementing peace agreements. In other informations, in the United Kingdom, thousands of residents and doctors have begun a 5-day strike across England on Friday to demand better wages. The action, which is the 13th walkout by doctors since March 2023, seeks to put further pressure on government institutions as Health Secretary Wes Streeting has refused to budge on demands for a pay uplift. For its part, the British Medical Association defended the strike, arguing that doctors need a 26% pay increase to restore their earnings once inflation is taken into account. Moreover, the association's chair assured the dispute is rooted deeper in years of pay erosion that have left resident doctors far behind other public sector workers.
More doctors than in the last decade, last year, decided that they wanted to leave the NHS, and we think that valuing them in a fair way and ensuring that they can get employment and training is a realistic and a reasonable ask for the government. The government have not came forward with any reasonable proposal on either front, and that's why we've been forced back onto the picket lines today.
Well, we don't want to be out here on strike, but what we're saying is that we need to increase the number of doctors. The 12-hour waits we're seeing in A&E are happening without the strikes. And if we don't increase the number of training posts and increase the number of jobs for doctors, that's going to continue to get worse.
Also now in other information, on Friday, China warned the United States government over its military support to Taiwan, emphasizing it seriously violates Beijing's sovereignty and security interest. The statement by Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian addressed Washington's recent agreement with the regional government of Taiwan to sell military parts and components. According to the Western nation, the plans are to complete the arms sale to the island in 2 weeks. In this scenario, the Chinese diplomat pointed out that Taiwan is fundamental to China's interest and constitutes the first inviolable red line in relations with the U.S. Moreover, the diplomat confirmed that the government will take all necessary measures to firmly defend national sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity.
The United States arms sales to Taiwan seriously violate the One China principle, and the 3 Sino-US joint communiques seriously infringe upon China's sovereignty and security interests, seriously violate international law, and send a seriously wrong signal to the Taiwan independence separatist forces. China is strongly dissatisfied and firmly opposed to this.
中方强烈不满，坚决反对。
In the United States, the 26th edition of the Latin Grammy Music Awards was celebrated in Las Vegas on Thursday, with Puerto Rican artist Bad Bunny emerging as the biggest winner of the night, taking home the Album of the Year prize. The achievement, which marked his 5th win during the ceremony, celebrates his project Debí Tirar Más Fotos, an album that received widespread praise in the past year as it highlights his Puerto Rican roots and the Caribbean islands' traditions. Other remarkable wins during the ceremony include the 5 awards obtained by Argentine hip-hop duo Catriel and Paco Amoroso across the pop, alternative and music video categories from their album Papota. In addition, the Academy gave awards to Colombian artist Karol G, Cuban pianist Chucho Valdés, and Mexican singer-songwriter Natalia Lafourcade and Paloma Morphy, the latter in the Best New Artist category. And after this cultural moment, we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.